Is it the middle of winter and you don't have running water in your shop? Well, neither do I. And it's the middle of winter here too. So I need to paint this axle and get this thing put back together, but I gotta prep it kind of different than normal. So follow along. We'll see if this works at all. Check it out. I'm back on the Jeep. The front axle is all welded up, but now it's time to put it back together. And I got a couple tricks I want to show you. It's winter around here and I don't have running water, so I'm trying a different trick out. I am using this Malco glass cleaner and a paintbrush to clean this axle up enough to get it ready for paint. So I have already kind of hosed the whole thing down with glass cleaner, brushed it, kind of cleaned up most of the stuff off of it. It really worked pretty good. This thing was all filthy. Over here I haven't got to it yet. So I will clean some of this up. And we're just trying to get this thing to where it's not going to rust out on me and continues to look good for a few more years. So I'm going to finish cleaning up the dirt on this and make sure that there's not a bunch of grease. If you saw in one of my other videos, this whole section through here just had massive amounts of oil dripping through it and stuff. So I've got to focus a bunch on that to make sure it's clean so that when I go to paint this thing again, the paint sticks okay. All right, let's start cleaning. So I wouldn't have even thought about doing this until like a month ago. And I was looking at videos on custom painting on YouTube and people prepping between coats and after sanding, and they were using sprayway glass cleaner. And I was like, that's cool. Like, I've always thought maybe that would work. And I just picked up a few cans of this Malco stuff. So I was like, well, I might as well try it and see if this works for me. So what I'm gonna do is use the glass cleaner to clean the grease and all the dirt and stuff off of here. And then I'll go back with an air blower and a rag, and we'll kind of clean this up as good as possible. So my main focus is going to be right in here where all the oil was leaking. So I think the plan is just to soak all this with the glass cleaner, let it do some work. I'm just using one of those chip brushes. This is like a 99-cent paintbrush from Home Depot or whatever. These things work really good for cleaning and all kinds of stuff around the shop. We'll get that thing cleaned up as good as possible. I know it's probably kind of a waste to use so much glass cleaner, but that's what I got right now. That one's good. All right, I wanted to give you an idea kind of how much abuse this thing has taken so far on Ultimate Adventure and like the couple other trips I've gone on. So you can see there the whole bottom side of the axle tube's been ground on rocks, and the bottom of the diff has got some scratching and stuff on it. So although I've only had this thing on the trail for 6 months now or so, it's kind of due for some touch-up paint. There we go, the axle is clean enough. So now it's time for the paint. I'm using this Sweet Patina Blackout Rust Preventative paint. I was told that this stuff can be brushed on or sprayed on. Basically just clean up your surface, make sure you don't have any extra dirt and grease on it, and go for it. So I'm gonna brush this on. I got just a house painting brush, a little can or a little tray here. All right. Smells like the real deal. Ooh, that's got some solids to it. Let's see if we can make this thing look decent. Alright, I'm just gonna start going for it. Just remember, just trying to make this thing look good for a few more years and cover up all the welds that I just did when I fixed those axle tubes. I could totally just spray paint all this, but I'm kind of curious to see how well it turns out by brushing it. I kind of like the idea of trying to get a little more paint on it and not wasting so much. Like when you spray paint stuff like round tube and axles and stuff, it seems like you're just putting most of it in the air. You can tell it's cold in here. This stuff is running a little bit, but not too bad. I'm sure the guys and gals at Sweet Patina are probably going to be like, oh my gosh, you should have been spraying that on. And they're probably right. But whatever, I think it's going to look good. I'm curious how much, if the brush strokes kind of go away on these smooth parts like the axle tubes. If they smooth out and look cool, look good, I'm going to be stoked. This is the weld that I did, and this whole section was just coated in oil. I heated the tube and the cast enough to where I was able to weld it, but there was still a bunch of oil on everything, and that glass cleaner did a pretty good job. I kind of feel like it did a better job than brake cleaner would have done. And brake clean is kind of like the go-to for cleaning anything, you know? I guess while we're painting this, I might as well give you a little story on why I chose this axle. When I was building this, I really wanted something that was like not on tons and 40s. I wanted to build something that was like 37-inch max tire and lightweight, but strong enough that I could like wheel it hard. And a high pinion 44 is kind of where it's at for lightweight and available and strong. So you can see here, like a low pinion axle would have the pinion coming out down here. This one's a high pinion axle, and these Fords have kind of like been notorious for coming with high pinion axles in the front. And high pinion in the front means that you run a reverse rotation gear, and the gear runs on the drive side rather than the coast side in the front. So you get a really strong gear set when you have a high pinion in the front. So high pinion 44 in the front is kind of like, that's pretty good. That's like, you know, it's a half-ton axle, but it you can really kind of beat on it. So this thing has a PowerTrax grip lock in the front. That's like an automatic locker, kind of like a Detroit. So it just engages as soon as there's power going into it from the drive shaft, the locker sort of engages. So this one, anytime you've got your foot in it, this thing's locked up, giving power to both front tires. You let off the gas and you can like coast through corners, and the locker will ratchet and not, and it'll open up. So it's pretty cool. I like running that style locker in the front end, just because you don't have to mess with switches and air and electronics and all that. I am learning, now that I live up here where it snows a bunch, I am learning if you have to drive the thing much in the wintertime, having that type of locker in the front's kind of a pain because it gets a little squirrely in the snow and ice. I think this paint is coming out amazing. I don't know what it looks like on camera, but in person it's actually pretty good, especially considering I'm brushing it on. And I just hosed it all down with glass cleaner to prep it. There's some spots that are kind of thin. You can kind of see like where it was bare metal, you can kind of see that it needs a second coat. So I'm going to clean up my mess and let this dry for the night. Tomorrow I will come home from work and put another coat on there. This is what was left in the can or in my little tub. I barely used any paint, which is crazy. So that's good. Definitely cost effective. I mean, like, I don't know that I hardly used anything. This is a quart. And I mean, probably used 50 cents worth of paint tonight. I'll come back and use more of that tomorrow. Holy cow, it's cold. I came out here like an hour ago and turned the heater on, and it's still only 47 in here. Let's go look at the paint though. Check it out. I think I got a pretty decent finished product for the little amount of work that we have into it. I've got a couple of drips here. And I'm not really too worried about that because this thing is going to get driven off road and smashed into rocks and stuff. I'm stoked. Alright, I'm going to go and do a second coat on pretty much everything. There's still spots like right here where the weld is where it's a little thin. So a second coat should help all that. And then we can call that project done. Coming into the paint cabinet here, I need some 220 sandpaper because that's what I just grabbed. I'm gonna go scuff up some of those spots that have a bunch of dirt in it, try and get rid of a little bit of that, and then we'll do a second coat of that stuff on there. I cleaned the brush last night, just let it soak in some of that reducer or that thinner there. So that stuff's good to go. Had a little project over here with some rust inhibitor where I was cleaning up the bumper on Mom's Spaghetti the other day because this thing was all rusty and nasty. And I got a Christmas tree. It's really tall. You'll see that in another Dirthead shed coming up soon, or you might have already seen it because that one will probably come out before this one does. Alright, I think we're ready for second coat. This stuff should look a little better with second coat. That'll look a little better. This side over here looks good all around. I think I just cleaned this side better and rushed through that side. That's why it had a bunch of dirt in it. Alright, that's it. I'm done painting this thing. I got another coat on everything. I guess next is going to be... I gotta put the axle shafts back in it and put all the outers back together. And then I need to drive this thing again. It's been way too long. Tomorrow night I'm putting the outers all together. Hey, I'm back out here in the shop. It is Friday morning and I was at work all week and then it was like negative 13 degrees or something yesterday, so I wasn't coming out to the shop after work. Back on the YJ, I just want to show you a couple of tricks on what is going on here. So these are the axle shafts that are in the YJ. That's the long side. I just cleaned and painted it. And this is the short side. I figured I'd show you a couple little tricks on here. So this is a chromoly 19 spline outer, chromoly 30 spline inner, and then it has Yukon super joints in it. Those are like a chromoly joint that doesn't have needle bearings in it. It just uses anti-seize on the caps. So these things are really strong. But you can see here I had a couple little contact issues on Ultimate Adventure where the yoke, I guess the ears were contacting inside of that yoke. So I just took the flap wheel on the grinder and just kind of rounded out the edges here. It's pretty common for this to be an issue, especially when you go with aftermarket shafts that the casting is a little bit larger than stock would have been. So it wasn't contacting very bad, so I just sort of took the edges off of these. I didn't take out a whole bunch of material, but that should be pretty good to go. Again, I cleaned this one with glass cleaner, finally ran out. And I'm going to just spray paint this one. The shafts are going, oh boy, I got my focus all off. The shafts are going this Ace Rust Stop semi-gloss black. They'll look good in there. All right, back to it. There it is, all put together. Oh, let me set this down. Hubs are spray painted black Rust-Oleum. Calipers are spray painted as well. Axle housing is gloss black sweet patina. It's all looking pretty good. Yeah. I used a whole bunch of glass cleaner, cleaning everything up, and some of those wipes, and piece of cardboard to let everything soak into. Now I just got to throw some gear oil in it, and I'll be on my way. You can see my Jeep back there. We got the Jeep out of the shop and we're going snow wheeling. Playing with chainsaws because that's what happens out here. Alright, we're working this Jeep now. The front axle's all put back together and went out wheeling with a group of friends up in North Idaho again, and we were getting into some Jeep snow. It's so cool. Stuck. Some work's tugging us out of here. I got stuck. There's Jesse up there in the Toyota. That thing is dominating. Clark in a really red TJ is pulling out Matt. Toyota, and I think Mark is right there getting rad in his JK. Smash it. Woo! We made it to the top of the mountain. First playing around. We got a good group out here. We made it to the top of the hill, and now we're on our way down. These guys are in a Bob Toyota. Got a big old Cherokee. Pretty rad. That's big, heavy, wet snow. works awesome. I don't know, this little Jeep rips. Probably wasn't the best thing on the trail today, but it's pretty good. Alright, that's it for this Dirthead shed. I'm gonna finish airing up.